was kind of creepy because they mandate masks going in there.
Okay.
It just felt weird being around 35,000 other people again.
Yeah.
I will say the new Raiders Stadium, Allegiant Stadium, is gorgeous.
It looks gorgeous from the outside.
On the inside,
so I haven't seen it yet in there.
And we're almost to football season.
Yep, right around the corner.
We both got new quarterbacks this year. You got Trey Lance.
Yeah, I saw
Mac
that.
Jones.
I saw that, yeah.
And Peter, who's your team?
Washington.
Washington.
We got a new. We got the bearded warrior, man.
Right.
Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic in Washington.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you might give my guy as a backup, Cam. Well, my old guy, Cam.
That's not, Cam's not coming to Washington.
Okay.
He's going to have to be a backup quarterback?
Yeah, well, what he did was he failed the COVID protocols in New England. He had a personal leave for a couple days. He didn't follow protocols, so he lost 5 days of practice. Which the rookie Mac Jones, Roll Tide, is our new QB because Mac Jones performed really good, and apparently Cam Newton wasn't vaccinated, and Bill Belichick kind of runs a tight ship, and he wanted all of his players vaccinated.
Wow.
So he got released.
Wow.
In Belichick, like, he went out of his way to say that, like, not being vaccinated played no factor into it, and that might be true because I'll say Mac Jones looked great in preseason, man.
Oh,
he looked just really calm. His arm was just like effortless, like slinging it, you know.
So they were just maybe trying to push Cam Newton out, or
Well,
I don't want to start any rumors, but
I think it's a leadership issue because if you had Cam Newton, who was the quarterback last year, and he was looked at as he was a team captain and a leader on the team, then if you're going to start Mac Jones, you might divide the locker room. So
okay.
QB, most important position. So I think they made the right choice. Even if Mac Jones struggles for a few games, I think you just throw him to the fire and see how he does.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. So concerts came back. Guns N' Roses was phenomenal, but fucking stupid. Their record company took down my YouTube channel because it's copyrighted material.
You know, it's so here's the thing. It's like, you know who completely flaunts that is TikTok. TikTok doesn't give a shit, man. You know what I mean? Like I can't even post TikTok videos on Facebook without getting flagged constantly. But like TikTok, like, man, you want to go ahead and post up like a portion of The Office. You want to go ahead and the fight scene from Lord of the Rings. You want to stream an entire concert. Go ahead, they don't care. They're like the Marvel of like social media, Whereas like Facebook is like DC, they're just like no,
Is it because their videos are only like 1 minute long, or?
No, I think a lot of it has. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that TikTok is owned by a company that are based out of Hong Kong, and like the Chinese constantly flaunt like they could give a shit, about propriety rights, and part of that is like the communist philosophy that there's no such thing as
everything
like
belongs to everything, everyone.
Yeah, and like it's like you could literally go and like get any knockoff DVD,
right?
And from I think they said like pirated sales of like movies and music is like almost like 80% of their economy, as far as entertainment goes. But yeah, yeah, it's really wild. So anyway, yeah, I think that might be. I think honestly, that's what the difference is.
Hey, so let's start off with this, okay? The Pineapple Express finally ships out this week, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So it's our labor of love, and I want to also thank you both. Personally thank Snow and MJ for like bugging the ever living hell out of me before Labor Day 5 years ago, and we started taking pre-order sales today, 5 years ago, and so yeah. So this is also our fifth stop. What's that?
Did you already run out? Have you already got all the orders filled? So far?
No, not at all. Not even close.
Okay.
We've got it. We've had a massive amount. So what we did is we're going to roll out to our. We're in approximately about 26 stores, and so we're only rolling our product out to the top 2 stores in each state. And so that's Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, and then I guess Arizona. Those are the 4 states that we're. Yeah.
Western
So she's working on it. She's working on an order for me, so she hasn't gotten back to me yet. But I need to hit her up and see if she wants to place an order. So we've got So another sidebar is our product is the Mississippi Museum of its natural history and also civil rights. So there's two museums together. Our products are featured there inside the museum, and so they've requested the sauce. We've got stores in Arkansas and we're picking 2 of our best stores from the city of Memphis, just to stock in. But everyone's we want 2 or 3 cases minimum, and so, so anyway, that's put a really huge strain on us, is being able to get that going, and then, so anyway, we did a small batch run. It came out better than expected. You just never know, because when I sent you guys that sample, that was it's a really small batch where you're in the test lab. You're in the laboratory and you're like, I want to do this.
When did you send that out? Because we never received it.
Well, maybe I didn't send you guys a sample, but we sent a lot of other people's samples. So, yeah.
You see how
you guys made the list.
Ours got lost in the mail.
Not only are we waiting for a complimentary bottle, I went on BBQ.com and ordered an extra bottle because we have that much faith in it.
I was going to surprise you guys. I was going to surprise you guys with a bottle, and I'm like, you know what? Should I tell these guys about this? I'm like, no. Fuck no. They harassed me for almost 6 months about this shit. So I'm going to surprise them with a bottle. So I snuck you out a bottle, and then but literally the day after I sent it, MJ's like, where's our bottle of sauce? I'm like, totally, the cat's out of the bag. I'm like, I already sent you one. Okay.
On its way.
We've been plugging it for. No, but hey,
let me pull up the tracking right now, and so I can give you an ETA on what it's going to be.
Just so you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So apparently, we did our job.
And thanks for the tip for the Amazon store, because I got the second to last bottle of Hot as Funk that they had left.
Oh,
you did.
Yeah.
You did. Well, and so we had to shuffle a lot of stuff around. So your order is slated to arrive by Friday. So you're gonna have it perfectly in time for.
Well, Labor Day barbecue, Snow.
Right.
Awesome. I'll be here Labor Day, right?
Monday.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not. Consciously.
Yeah, I will. No, I will be here. My dad's gonna be in town.
Yeah. So go to Bootsie'sBBQ.com and get some of the Pineapple Express. We're at West of 3rd. Coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is, just to kind of, if you've never had a mustard barbecue sauce before, this is our variation of it. Okay. And so while we didn't send any samples to MJ and Snow, we did send them to people who actually grew up in South Carolina on the sauce, because whenever you do regional sauces, you really want to have the buy-in of people who grew up there. And I think we all know, if you growing up in Arizona, there's nothing worse than going out for Mexican food and it having to be some horrific Tex-Mex rip off that's just not even close. And so.
Or never go in Northern California for Mexican food. Well, if you grow up in just say no.
We actually had La Katrina for dinner tonight. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Have you been there yet?
parents are like, well, I grew up on Margaritaville, which is no longer Margaritaville in Kingman. It was off of Bank Street. But yeah, I think my parents were all hardcore La Hacienda people. So, they go to the one downtown, I think.
Oh, El Palacio?
Yeah, El Palacio, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I'm always up for like really good Mexican food. So
Yeah.
I was in North Dakota and went out for Mexican food. There's this place called Taco John's, and they actually serve it with like a side of gravy and poutine. So, wow, right?
Was it good?
It was really freaking good, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's great. Like, you like get some gravy and fries, you know? So yeah, with your taco and burrito. But we got the buy-in from local people in South Carolina. They signed off on it. So what we did is we took basically the South Carolina sauce and we blended it with pineapple. And it's freaking insanely good.
What did you have it on?
Yeah. What'd you eat it on?
I shredded pork. Like, that's kind of like the typical, like, South Carolinian. Like, you get, like, some shredded pork shoulder, and then, you pour it over that. But it is really good on chicken. It is really good on pork. It is insane on sausage. Like, if you do some brats,
Like, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. You will freak out. When you taste it, you taste not only the tanginess of the mustard, but you're gonna get that citrus, and then there's the honey in there, and it's got a little bit of a back heat, but not too strong. So,
it sounds like the flavors dance on your tongue. That's what you're describing to me. They do a little waltz on there.
It's swinging, man. It's a swinging hit. I will say, like, part of like doing the research about like pineapples and like just finding out everything we can about them to like come up with like the narrative. I learned that pineapple is like the symbol for swingers. So I didn't know that.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you see somebody with like a pineapple on their car, especially if it's upside down, that's like basically they're letting you know that they're swingers.
Oh, wow.
I know that's the underground sound.
Pineapple.
Yeah.
Or
Really?
Or the SpongeBob fans.
Yeah, and evidently a pineapple with a unicorn means a girl who goes both ways. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I did not know that. The only thing I knew about pineapple was if you go over to somebody's house, and I guess this is like I can't remember if it's like a Hawaiian thing that somebody told me, like you go over to have dinner at somebody's house, and then when they come out and they feed you the pineapple at the end, that means that's your cue as it's time for you to leave now. You've had your pineapple, so the party's over. Like, it's a nice way of telling people to get out. You just feed them the pineapple. Yeah.
Where did I miss all this pineapple trivia? Oh, hey, and I guess condolences. The big barbecue festival got canceled this year because of COVID.
It's not the big one. It was there's this. It's a small market blues festival, and it's one of the biggest blues festivals in town. It's a 3-day blues festival, and they also do like a barbecue festival, like competition at the same time, and it's really nice, man. It's the people that do it are all local, and they really put their heart into it, and they get some great acts, some great blues acts that get in there. And so, yeah, I mean, so the plan was to have, y'all out and a few other people. So I went and got an Airbnb of like this home from that's built in 1888, and it's really awesome. And got that all set up and ready, and anyway, it got canceled. The writing was kind of on the wall, when the COVID outbreak just really hit again. Just things were getting canceled left and right. I'm sure you guys saw Bonnaroo got canceled this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're.
Well, that was more because of the flooding, right?
it wasn't going to happen. The flooding made it convenient, but like literally, dude, those like, I mean, it's a hippie festival. I mean, they have to camp out in mud, they'll do it. You know what I mean? But they've done it before in the past, but it was really just COVID. You know, COVID just really made it untenable. And so, the flooding made it really convenient. You know, to kind of just say, oh, well, we can't because of flooding. You know, so and it allows them to any of that controversy.
I'm supposed to go to one in California next month, Aftershock, which Metallica plays 2 nights. And I'm hesitant on booking a flight up there because, you know, it feels like it could be canceled at any minute.
Yeah. I mean, dude, James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich aren't risking their fucking lives. You know what I mean? Those guys are worth too much money. You know? So, but you know, the thing is that you have to have your vaccine. You have to have your card. So you have to show your vaccine passport,
your papers,
in order to go to the hospital. Yeah, your papers. You know.
Oh my God! Or do you have to get? Or do they do the thing? I was meaning to talk about this. Or do they do the thing where you have to show the negative COVID test?
Yeah, within 72 hours.
Okay, let me just tell you all. If you have not had a COVID test, you do not fucking want one. I had PTSD for like 4 days after having that. My nose still felt all weird. Worst experience ever. I'm like, who would want to do this? Who would want to do this every time they want to go to a concert just so they can be a stubborn asshole that's like, I'm not getting the vaccine. I'm not getting the vaccine.
Yep.
You are an idiot. You're a moron and you deserve to have rods shoved in your nostrils.
The thing is that the big thing now is just selling forged ID cards.
I've heard of that, but it's like they need to just do the database where they can get the vaccine passports. Everyone will have them on their phone, or don't they have them in another country already?
New York has.
Yeah, but I think a whole other country has it.
Pass or something like that.
Yeah.
In France you can get it on your phone, and it's an app that just opens up and it shows your passport, and there's a barcode that you can scan and stuff like that. And so it's coming. I mean, and it's an absolute mess, man. I mean, but let's like break this down. Like right now, the forged vaccine cards are going for like $250-$300. Like, you can get one for free. Like, just go to your local grocery store and get
the shot is free. Both shots are free. The card is free. It comes with a card.
Or you can take the Lysamenten and, you know, fucking horse fucking whatever that shit does. And then you have endless diarrhea, which is a lot easier than getting the shot. You know,
people.
Go ahead.
People were talking about how, like, they're like, oh, like, bonus, I just, like, all these worms are coming out of my body.
What?
And, like,
it's a horse dewormer that people are taking.
Yeah.
It's a paste meant for livestock.
Why are they taking this? I've been out of the loop.
Because the farm.
Joe Rogan told him.
No, it wasn't Rogan. Although Rogan got COVID this week and he was taking it. It wasn't Rogan that started, though. It was it Ron Johnson or one of those guys?
So what's the premise? Like, if you get COVID, you take this dewormer?
No, you take the dewormer to prevent COVID. Or it's also supposed to help the symptoms if you do catch COVID.
Correct. It's supposed to help you with the long-term symptoms. So it was pushed by.
That?
Right. Yeah. It literally does, because what you get is you get the RNA spike protein. And the spike protein. So the best analogy I got from this is from a doctor, and they said, like, so if you get COVID, it's like going to a bar and drinking a couple beers, or like going to a bar that's stocked only with beer. Is basically like getting COVID. So you hear all these people are like, well, I don't need the vaccine because I just got COVID. Okay? So, yeah, you got COVID. That means you're a bar with beer. If you get the vaccine has an RNA spike protein that is the full bar. That's got tequila, that's got rum, that's got rumplements, that's got beer, that's got, daiquiris, it's got a daiquiri machine.
Yeah, it's got everything.
Exactly 99 bananas. It's got the whole fucking thing. So, like, what would you rather go to? Would you rather go to a bar that's got beer, or would you want to go to the full fucking bar, man? You know, I mean, you get the full fucking bar, you know? So,
we get all the cocktails.
That's right, baby.
Yeah, fucking. And I think what's behind this is that, I don't know if it was Ron Johnson or not, but what it is these politicians invest in these companies. Ivermectin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but what they're doing is they'll invest in this company that makes this horse dewormer.
To drive this
and then they'll get some quacky doctor to make a YouTube video about it, and then that drives people to go out to Tractor Supply to buy this horse dewormer that's not FDA approved. And to all people that say, I'm not taking the vaccine until it's FDA approved, well, it's FDA approved. No, I'm going to take this horse dewormer instead. I'm going to go to Tractor Supply for my meds instead of, you know.
Can you imagine these morons going in there? Y'all got that COVID care here? Y'all got it?
Well, but it's a horse dewormer, so these people are having explosive diarrhea.
I know. I would give them, if I worked at Tractor Supply, I'd be like, why just buy one bottle? You need like 12.
So I started seeing these people talking about ropeworms, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then, like, right after that, there was like this breakdown. A reporter went ahead and did this full-on breakdown. So remember the Trump doctors who tried to get everyone to take the malaria drugs?
Yeah.
Hydroxychloroquine?
Yeah.
Like, remember, and then they had that one doctor that they found out that she believed that you get sickness from having sex with demons?
And demon sperm or something like that.
Yeah. Yes.
The demon sperm doctor lady. Yes.
The demon sperm doctor. So they are the group. It's called First Responders or First Coast FCCCC, or COVID Response Team, and they are the ones that started spreading the stuff about the dewormer. And what they did is they went and started hitting all these evangelicals and going to like the evangelical network. And what they do is they get in there and then they hire these like really shady doctors or people that went to medical school but are no longer practicing. And they basically get them to kind of do these videos like you're saying, advocating for this stuff. And then they sell it to evangelicals who evidently are like the Gomer pile of the in the Rube universe. They're like the fucking bottom tier, dude, of like the fucking swing.
Well, yeah, and then you gotta hand it to, like, I mean, those people come up with some really clever names too. Like you said, like they come up with this COVID response thing to make themselves sound legitimate to like these people who believe.
Yeah.
If it sounds like what they want to go along with, they're going to believe it like that. And then they feel like they have this legitimate name. They're the same as like the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers do the same things. I mean, they're Americans for prosperity. Bullshit. They don't give a fuck about America. They give a fuck about the Koch brothers' prosperity, but not America.
No, it's absolutely 100%. And what you're talking about is it's called confirmation bias. It's where you already have a like previously held belief.
Yeah.
You'll latch on to anything. And so I'm in this discussion with this guy. So you don't need to know the background, but a guy I went to high school with got COVID, and he's always been a hardcore evangelical. He's one of those guys that's like, we all know him. Like, he never really has a job, but his job is kind of like the youth pastor, where he's always, on a mission somewhere that somebody else is funding, where he's going to like, some beautiful city like for beliefs, and they have to pray to Jesus in order to get food, and so he got COVID, and so on there I was like, I really hope that you get vaccinated, now that you've had COVID, because the COVID was so bad he actually had to have heart surgery.
Wow. And
so he was like, no, I got COVID, I don't need it anymore, I'm gonna pray. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna pray too, but it's like, the one thing that really pisses evangelicals off is when you quote scripture to them. And so there's some passage of scripture where it's like, you should, in order in order to do the glory of God, you've got to actually walk the walk and talk the talk. You have to know people by their works, not by just what they recite. And so I said that, pissed everybody else off. And lo and behold, this guy comes on talking about the dewormer, the goat dewormer, horse dewormer, and he starts posting all this shit from these doctors, these old Trump doctors and stuff like that. So yeah, they've thoroughly been through that network and have totally populated it and filled it full of bullshit. But here's the fucking crunch: is they're all talking about the fact that they're shitting out ropeworms. A gastroenterologist looked at this and he says, "You're not shitting out ropeworms. That's the inside lining of your intestines.
Ew.
That you're shitting out because you're eating something that is so noxious. It's literally ripping the lining of your fucking intestines out in your shit."
They're all going to end up with Crohn's.
Well,
or whatever.
Because it's meant for a horse, not a person.
Right, but I mean, they're going to end up having to get parts of their intestines all cut out, probably, from damage. I mean,
70% of the phone calls in these states like Texas and Mississippi are poison control, where people took invectomycin, and now they're literally doubled up in gut pain because they didn't take the right amount of dosage, or they took it for fucking, some of the stuff. Yeah, cows are a ruminant. They've got 4 different stomachs. So they took something that's supposed to go through 4 different stomachs, and guess what, humans? You've only got one, and it's literally shredding their inside of intestines, and they're bleeding. They're shitting out blood and
are they dying from it?
Hey, Pete, do you know the answer to this question? Because this is like a paste, right?
Correct.
Do the livestock, do they ingest it through their mouths, or do they take it another? So they ingest this paste, so you
right.
rub it on their tongue or whatever. Okay.
Right. So we have chickens. We raise chickens, and chickens are, like any other animal, like cattle, like horses, they feed on things from the ground, right? And so anything that feeds off of something off the ground is going to get worms, okay? Because worms live in dirt, and that's just the way it goes. And so you have to worm them constantly, So every 3 months you give them dewormer, but as a side effect is you also have to give them antibiotics and all this other stuff. But yeah, you usually put it in their water dish, or you can give it to them in a paste via syringe. And so you fill up the syringe with the paste. We actually give our chickens goat dewormer, and we give them small portions of it, and it's because it's all the same thing. But you give them small portions of it, and you take it in a syringe, and then you feed the paste into their mouths.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, because I'm sure that my friends on the right would. Their body, their choice. If they won't mess with all this, I'm just I'm done. Fine, you want to go take fucking horse dewormer? Do it.
Hey, before we get
so idiotic.
Go ahead, Pete.
So on this conversation, this guy starts bringing up the invectomycin, and there's an actual real doctor gets on the feed, and she says look, you should get vaccinated. If you don't get vaccinated, at least observe protocol, stay 6 feet away, wear a mask, just stay the fuck away from people. This guy is yeah, but what about this paste? What do you think about it? She's okay, there's no clinical testing for it at all. We're not recommending it. And he's well, yeah, but you should really keep an open mind about this. And she's okay, here's the study by Merck, and the guy's yeah, well, I'm not going to take the word of big pharma, I'm going to
There's no talking sense. Yeah,
it's made by Merck, and even the own Merck, Merck is if they can make a fucking buck selling their grandmother's blood, they would do it. And their study came out and said, yeah, don't take it. There's literally no benefit to taking this shit. Do not take it, So even the company that makes this paste said, don't do it, there's, and I mean, I'm sorry, but if they could make money off of doing this shit, they would, but they're not, they can't even do it,
I'm so sick of arguing with people on this topic, too. I mean, it's insane. I'm fine, you want to do stupid shit all of a sudden everyone's a medical expert.
Yeah, but it ruins it for everybody.
That some of the people haven't even finished high school yet. They're medical experts.
And, like Top Gun, the next Top Gun Maverick, got delayed again until next year because COVID.
Oh, why do they not want to? They specifically want to have it go to the theater? Is that it?
Yeah, they want to go to the theater.
Okay.
But theaters are crowds, and it's getting to the fall again, and we're going through another wave now, which is going to get worse.
I think that Bill Burr, who's a guy from Boston, right? Isn't Bill Burr from Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that spot that he had on Conan was just so prescient, and he was like a year ago.
Fonzies.
Yeah, isn't that great? Well, and another thing he said is, he's like, you know what? Like, I am no longer, the next time somebody comes to me with some fucking crazy cockamamie scheme, I'm going to ask them, did you get this from the library? Because at least the library has the decency to divide things up into fiction and nonfiction.
Right.
Everything on the internet is just fucking, it's like this is true, and it's like, and it's like the earth is flat. I had literally had another person I went to high school with say, there's really compelling evidence that supports that the earth is flat. And I'm like, you're fucking nuts. Like, I mean, are you serious? Like, we've known that the earth is round since, like, fucking, Copernic, I mean, Jesus, man.
And to get on to the earth thing, because I wanted to make a point. I was going to make it later in the podcast, but I have something like spirituality, and I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, and I kind of believe the earth is like a living object, and I kind of think, like, earth is treating us like we're a virus. Like, we come with COVID just to control the population. It's like a dog trying to shake ticks off, and you have these hurricanes year after year that get worse and worse. Look at New York City. New York City had this flash flood warning last night. 19 people, at least 19 or 29, I forgot what the number went up to. Just the subway stations were just getting flooded out from this hurricane that had touched down last weekend.
The planet's pissed.
Yeah,
I think she's just pissed. She doesn't like the way we treat her.
And the wildfires out in California. Did you see Lake Tahoe? That the fire in South Lake Tahoe, the fire is as big as the lake is. Now Lake Tahoe is massive.
Yeah, I've been to Lake Tahoe. It's pretty.
And they're like, there's like fire tornadoes. Like, what the fuck? Like it's not bad enough. Like, they're just like, let's have a fire tornado. Like, just roll over everything and light everything on fire.
Yeah, the Earth's just like, I think she's probably just like, I took out the dinosaurs. I ain't gonna have a problem with humans.
Well, if you're thinking about it like this, like any living organism, and you have a parasite, and climate change is real.
Yeah.
It's real, people. Science is real. Climate change is real. And I think what the Earth is doing is trying to shake the parasite, which is us, collectively.
Right.
The amount of carbon that's been thrown into the atmosphere is more than any time in the point of history. I mean, and I think that right now they've said it's already a foregone conclusion that the Earth is going to warm by 2 degrees. If it gets to 4 degrees, it's like game over. Like, that's like everything living will pretty much die off, as we know. And it's going to be a massive die off in the ocean because they can't go up to that extra degree. It's just so everything is so much. Everything is about a balance. Nature is a balance, and we're tipping the scales really badly.
As a parent, because this probably isn't going to happen in our lifetime, but I'm more afraid of my kids and what they're going to be at 40, 50 years old, and what the planet will be like then.
Yeah.
Because that's probably going to be the D-Day or whatever you could call it.
I will say, and this is kind of interesting, but so the new Fed, the chair of the Fed is really kind of taking a really interesting approach on this, and I'm sure we look at his name, look who it is, because it's going to bother me.
Jerome Powell?
Yeah, Jerome Powell. Good
Yeah.
call.
Hey.
You're welcome.
But you got the big brain, you know. Yeah, just not a pretty face. He's actually looking at classifying climate change as an economic threat. And by doing so, he can actually leverage the power of the Federal Reserve to combat climate change. And that's really radical, you know, is basically just saying, like, you know, this is a threat to the economies of the United States, and therefore we have to do something about it. And it makes sense, like, if you think about it, you know, it really is.
Right.
But, you know, like, when I worked for an environmental group, and we, one of the things that we partnered with was, like, the military, and we basically, that's when the Navy created the Green Fleet, which it's like an entire carrier fleet that runs on biofuel. And the reason is because, like, fossil fuels and the access to them was like a direct threat to the national security of America, you know? And we were able to prove it. And like, you know, again, like, the Admiral of the Navy was on board, and he's like, yeah, we need to look at alternative sources of fuel.
Yeah, and I never understood why, like, Shell and companies like that never got into this, you know, clean fuel energy years ago. But then why are they still pushing fossil fuels, though?
So it's because of infrastructure. It's because it's so much cheaper. Like, if you go, like, so, like, you know, in the South, you know, if you go to like Houston and Texas, you know, or Louisiana, and, like, go to where, like, they process the oil. So the equipment is, like, from the 1950s. Like, they've not changed anything. Like, it's literally, like, the infrastructure, everything's from the 50s.
I'm going to be boycotting Texas for the near future. Probably for the long-term future. Just down with Texas, and we'll get to that in just a minute.
Yeah. You know, so one of the things that when I was, you know, I worked I was a manager of a congressional campaign in the 1st District of Arkansas, which it has this town called Batesville. In the city of Batesville, there was a Kodak film plant. And you guys remember Kodak film, right? You know,
yeah.
They were, you know, yeah, I mean, that was the film to have. Well, so Kodak, when Polaroid came on board, they had this new way of doing instant digital film, right? And so Kodak, to catch up, wanted to do their own version of it. And so in their development process, they actually stumbled on a way to take biomatter and convert it into fuel. And so, like, they literally could take, like, biomass from, like, you know, animals and stuff like that, like, you know, fat and stuff like that, and they could convert it into fuel. And so that was, like, in, like, the late 80s that they discovered this. After Kodak basically collapsed and went bankrupt, that this company in Batesville continued making stuff. And so they are now they have algae in these tanks, and the algae can actually produce fuel, you know? And so they got bought by Exxon. I think it was either Exxon or Chevron. So Chevron owns them and then all their patents and everything that they've created now. So the long story is, and this is what I believe, is that a lot of these fossil fuel companies are making the transition. They already own most of the patents for biofuels and for different fuel technology, but they're just riding it out. Like, they're literally going to suck every last bit of profit, you know, that they can, before they actually make the transition.
But what's the long-term, you know, it doesn't seem like a good long-term business plan if the Earth isn't going to be around in another 100
I don't
years.
think they think about all that. I seriously do not think that companies like can have the ability to even think outside of the box. Like, what is the goal? Like, they just think we are in business to make money. Like, that's what they think. Like, just money and more of it. That's what they want.
Right, and, you know, and anybody that thinks that it's the current administration's fault that gas prices are high, no, it's because of what happened last year, and they weren't making money last year because nobody was traveling, so they're making up the profit this year. And that's why gas prices are high.
You can never blame the gas prices on any president. Like, when people did it to do whenever.
Well, but they do.
Yeah, and it's because they don't know. They don't. They want to blame someone for their problems, and that's like what problem they're having. So who are they going to blame? Well, who's in charge? You know, I'm going to blame that person. You know?
It's. I mean, for God's sakes, like the members of the fucking Taliban blew up 16 Marines, 13 or 16 Marines, and I mean these are Marines that were trying to evacuate families. They went in there, blew up 150 other of their fellow countrymen, killed them, but everyone's pissed at Biden. You know, you're going to let the Taliban off the hook on this? Like,
yeah, you're not mad at the Taliban.
Okay.
I mean,
women and children.
Now, to that point, I can see where the Biden administration did some of the wrong things, where they handled it wrong, but the reality is you have 4 administrations to blame for what's going on now. And I'm not a foreign policy expert. I will say that.
In 2001, the Taliban went to David Petraeus, who was the supreme commander over Afghanistan, and said, we surrender. Our only terms are that we are granted amnesty, to leave the country and stuff like that. And he said no.
So then why are they blaming him? Let's blame David Petraeus.
Well, because people are so short-sighted. They don't remember. I remember watching, CNN, God forbid, but back in 2001 when the war started, and they said it wasn't going to end well unless it was like a permanent occupation. I remember that.
You're telling me that Afghanistan, the country whose moniker is where empires go to die, that we would have had a problem there? Like in 1800s, the British went into Afghanistan from India and were like, we're going to take this fucker over. Like, they got stomped, and then you have the Russians. I mean, they went in there. No, I mean, even the Mongols fucking avoided Afghanistan, I mean, they went around it, Like,
it's a losing battle. Why
the Ottoman Turks.
The time there?
The Turks, they were right next door. They didn't mess with Afghanistan, I mean, the Russians got fucked over there. I mean, we go trouncing in there thinking that we're going to just, literally, how do you defeat, my favorite thing is these guys are like, well, I'm going to buy an M16 and I'm going to fight for freedom just like the Taliban did. I'm going to topple the government. Dude, they lived in fucking caves. Like you can't, like Ricky, you can't even fucking live without your diabetes medication. You know what I mean? Like, you're not the Taliban. You're not going to make it,
Yeah, and they're not going to live without, all their technology. They're not going to live without TVs. They're not going to go set up and they're not going to live underground to do this.
A couple points there. You're never going to defeat an ideology, and you cannot oppose democracy on people that do not know democracy. This is going to sound bad, but Saddam Hussein knew how to keep his people in line, and as soon as he got taken out, what happened? That was the start of ISIS.
I mean, to be honest, though, I mean, Iraq's doing pretty good, I mean, they've had elections. I mean, that being said, we got removed and, the Iranians took over. I mean, but, they're doing a pretty good job, I mean, we haven't heard a whole lot of Iraq lately,
Well, yeah, but the Iranians come in and kind of tamper down the shit again,
Yeah.
Again, not democracy.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, and, again...
Why can't we just be more like Switzerland? Really.
Well, yeah, we can't be the world police.
Why can't we be more like Switzerland?
But Bush Jr., Obama, once we got Osama bin Laden, that should have been like, all right, mission accomplished, let's start to pull out. But no.
But that's what, remember, General Powell said that, if we break it, then we buy it, and that was the warning that he gave Rumsfeld and Cheney and all those other assholes that got us into this when they, is that, look, if we go into Iraq, if we go into Afghanistan, we're going to be stuck there. You get mired in there. There's not an exit strategy. I mean, it's like, you gotta you got to figure out how you get you always have to kind of work backwards. Start with how do you get out, and then work on how you get in.
And it was the previous administration that negotiated the end, and Biden extended it by 3 months because he knew that we wouldn't be able to get out. And I think Trump was bragging about how with this deal you could not get out of it.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a really important point, because this is something that we're going to have to be ready for. Because they did a lot of little fucking shitty fiasco things because they knew they were going to lose, and so they set off these little bombs to go off. That Biden's going to have to negotiate. He went out of his way to completely destroy any type of relationship with China. Knowing that China would be a valuable trading partner. He sabotaged all this different stuff and left these little time bombs all over the place, knowing that the next administration was going to have to clean up, and that's just really, it happens all the time, they do that shit. Look at the Republicans in Arizona. Like the Republicans in Arizona absolutely believe that they expect to lose control of the House next cycle. And so what they did is they cleared out the Treasury. Like, they went ahead and they gave this massive rebate to everybody. They gave a tax break to everyone. And what they wanted to do was flush all the money that they had in Treasury and flush it out, so then when the Democrats do take over, they could say, look, they're raising taxes, look how bad it is. Don't you, now you guys have learned your lesson, vote us back in, So, it's the politics of, it's a sabotage game.
Wouldn't that be the definition of a traitor, though? I mean, I don't get it.
Well, it is, but they don't care. Do they play by the rules?
Hey, Pete, you were in Afghanistan, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. No, I was not. No, Aaron was.
Aaron was.
Not. Yeah, Aaron did multiple deployments, Yeah, Aaron did multiple deployments to Afghanistan. He was there. I mean, he would definitely be a good guy. Now, I've talked to a lot of people that were, and I have a lot of friends that deployed there.
How do they feel about, because it seems like there was a lot of wasted time and money and effort and lives that were lost over 20 years.
I think it's a bittersweet thing, because I think those guys knew all along that there's like no exit game. I mean, for one, there were reports. The New York Times did a really great article on this, where they said the Taliban was paying their troops better than the Afghani government. They were one of the things to look at is, remember when we funded the Soviets. When we funded the Northern Alliance, and when this was back in the 80s, when the Northern Alliance took over, there was no such thing as the Taliban. The Taliban wasn't there yet. It was the Northern Alliance. The Taliban came in because the Northern Alliance was so corrupt, and that people actually said, you know what, we'll take the Taliban because at least we know where they stand. We know they're assholes, but at least they're not going to steal from us. At least they have rules. Whereas a lot of these guys in the Northern Alliance, man, they go in and the police are robbing people. There's a lot of stuff with child molestation is horrible. Where they had some of these generals that we were working with in Afghanistan had like their boys that they have tied to beds, that they sodomize regularly, and the Taliban, they ban all that shit. Yeah, sure, they treat women like shit, but they treat everybody like shit equally. They don't allow any of that stuff because it's forbidden under Islamic law. So. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I just knew it was bad.
Yeah. And one of the things that I was curious about was why we left so much equipment behind. Now, one, I guess it was partly the quick withdrawal, but number two, we were leaving stuff behind for the Afghanistan to stand up against the Taliban, and they rolled over so quickly. But I also heard that a lot of that equipment was destroyed and rendered useless. You throw a flashbang in the cockpit.
It's a thermite grenade, which burns out 5,000 degrees, and it just renders everything useless. Yeah, I talked to a lot of the veterans on this, guys like Jack McCain, who's John McCain's son, who was he was a trainer. He trained pilots there. And he says, like, he was the first one to kind of call out, like this whole thing about equipment is all bullshit, you know? Like, the stuff that was left there is garbage, you know? Like, it's literally stuff that's inoperable. You know, it doesn't work anymore, and, you know, so... And that was one of the things about, like, supporting the Afghan government is, yeah, we could have continued to support them, but they would have been like a client state, you know? They would have been completely dependent upon America for everything.
And if Biden would have extended this for another 6 months, then every soldier that lost his life in the conflict, the blood would be on his hands too, and then the one side would say, well, see, you didn't stick to the timeline. Look what happened.
Yeah. They would have escalated the bombing. I mean, the reason they did the bombing at the airport was because there was talk that we were going to go past the August 31st. You know, and let's be honest, Trump negotiated the withdrawal in May, so we already extended it like multiple months. We were originally supposed to leave in May.
And
I think one of the smarter things is that I talked to a guy who's a colonel, and he said, like, you know, so in Afghanistan there's what's called a fighting season. They have really brutal winters there, and so they don't do fighting during the winter. Like, if we would have been smart about this, we wouldn't have done the withdrawal in the beginning of the fighting season, which is in May. You know, I mean, that's when Trump fucking did it. We would have done it in October when the snows are setting in, and like nobody goes and fights because it's too fucking cold, and like the roads are all filled in with snow, and you know, most of these guys are in the mountains. You know, that's where their base is, and so they can't get out. You know, if we would have done it then, it probably would have been a lot smarter. But again, this was negotiated by Trump. I mean, he did this on purpose. You know, he did it at the beginning of the fighting season. Either that or he's completely incompetent, which may also be true. But if you would have pushed it back towards the beginning when the fighting season ends, because it's too fucking cold and it's filled with snow and all the passes are snowed in, it would have been a lot better. You know, we could have probably got in and out, and it would have been, you know, any of the problems that we have now.
And another thing, the attack was carried out by an offshoot of ISIS-K or something like that. And didn't Trump and Fox News and all that declare ISIS is defeated thanks to Trump? I mean, I remember them crowing about that a few years ago. That ISIS is defeated.
The president of the Taliban was released from a prison by Trump. You know, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, man. You know?
But everybody blames Biden, and there's enough fault to go through 4 administrations. I don't know why people can't have enough critical thinking to realize that.
Yeah.
But you're talking about people who, these are guys who didn't blink an eye when there were kids that were locked in cages. When the Trump administration decided to punish children as a deterrent towards their parents coming to this country, didn't say shit.
Yeah, and also, the very same people were now like, oh, how dare we abandon our allies in Afghanistan? Well, when you talk about bringing the allies here, those are the same people like, no, we don't want immigrants from that country coming here because they're terrorists.
Right. It's going to change. It's going to go from, you know, Biden wasn't doing enough to evacuate our friends to, what, you know, are you serious? Like, we got to listen, like this person next to me, you know, Biden imported Sharia law, you know, I mean, everything's a cudgel, man. Everything's like a block of wood to beat the next person with, because there's no, all they are, it's like the whole liberal tears thing. Like Adam Sowell just did this book that he just released, and he talks about like this philosophy that it's like just liberal tears, like whatever's going to antagonize the other person is what you stand for, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I see it. That's how I see them like behaving. Is like it's almost like they look at everything that goes on in our country as the way they look at their favorite sports teams. Like it's just they're like
tribal,
triggered to they're just, I need to hate these people. I just need to hate them.
Right.
You know, like these are my enemies. I'm against them. You know that.
Right. There was one guy, pundit on Fox News that said he hated the administration as much as the Taliban.
Yeah.
Now, how can you say that about a fellow American? Although, I did get into an argument with somebody on Facebook yesterday, and I compared to the far-right extremists, I compared them to the Taliban.
Yeah.
And this guy goes, what, you some kind of mental midget? I know you're not supposed to say midget, it's supposed to be a little person. I corrected him on that, but it is. The Taliban, what does it stand for, okay? You want to restrict women's rights, okay?
Right.
What's going on in Texas? We'll get to that in a minute. You worship your guns more than people. Who does that sound like? Taliban. You don't agree with an election, so you want to violently overthrow the government. Who does that sound like? I mean, there's a lot of similarities.
It's all. There's this thing that's called like eliminationist rhetoric, and it's basically using stuff to dehumanize the other person. Hitler talked about it. His propaganda minister compared immigrants to like cockroaches and rats, and that they were full of their vermin, full of disease. And now look at there's all this stuff about we have to build a wall because immigrants are coming over and they're full of diseases. It's so disgusting. It's just like. Because it's so obvious. Like they're not even trying to hide the fact that they're just being racist assholes, and they're bigoted. Clinically, immigrants have no more disease than anyone else.
Right.
I haven't heard about Mexico eating.
Technically, it's not an open border. I don't know if the borders open again.
They don't want to build a border with Canada, but they do with Mexico. It's interesting. And never mind that most of the people who come here legally. You can come here on a visa, and you just overstay your visa.
Yeah, they come on planes.
Yeah.
Most people don't come through our borders anyways. They're flying over on a plane.
Right, and the crisis at the border, they're basing it off of apprehensions at the border. So that means that we're apprehending more people than ever.
Yeah. It's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Isn't that what they want? They want to apprehend people.
Yeah. Drug arrests are up. Let's hire more cops. Well, you mean why? We're stopping the drugs. Yeah. It's really. You have to ask yourself what's behind it, and then if you watch on Fox News, you figure it out. Tucker Carlson talking about how immigrants are here to replace us. It's like this. It's really feeding into this narrative, and these people are in this bubble. My favorite is when they're they tell you to stop watching CNN, and you're just like, dude, I don't watch CNN.
I know. I don't even have regular TV.
Right. You're just like, I'm an educated person that reads. Thank you very much.
Hey,
but it's yeah.
Hey, backtrack just a minute. I've got a couple of subjects I want to hit on. Did you gain the remnants of the hurricane there, or did it kind of veer?
It veered to the east of us, but yeah, we got some really bad rainstorms, flooding. Nothing with it we couldn't handle though. Mississippi got hit pretty hard.
Yeah,
and of course. Yeah, in New Orleans, we've got my wife's family is from Homa, and they got just totally wiped out. They're without power. They're not supposed to have power restored for another 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy. Can you imagine not having power? Wouldn't the whole system break down at that point? You can't keep food. Can't give food.
So there was a company from Tucson that showed up because the guy who owns this company, his sister lives in New Orleans, and so. The last hurricane, he offered to go there. They're an outdoors, they do outdoor supplies, parties and stuff like that. And so he offered to bring tarps. And so she told him, yeah, come on. So they handed out over 100 tarps, to a company from Tucson. So the reason where the cop says is when a hurricane comes through, it blows all your tiles off, basically shreds your roof back down to the bare bones. And so you've got to tarp it until you can get a construction crew in. With Hurricane Katrina, people had tarps for a year, sometimes a year and a half, because that's how long it was, how far back it was backlogged,
Well, our good buddy Aaron was docked in New Orleans as it was coming in, but his ship moved about 40 miles or so to the north.
Yeah, Vicksburg. to tie in to Vicksburg, which was crazy.
Yeah, then all the passengers and crew had to remain on the ship until the storm passed.
Yeah.
But hey, thank God Aaron was okay. I was kind of worried about him. I was messaging him that morning. I'm like, dude, you're not there, are you? And he's just like, no, I'm north of there.
It was the worst. It was like I think it was like the worst hurricane to hit New Orleans since like the 1930s. They've only had 4 Category 4s in the history of their entire history. So they've never had a Category 4.
This was worse than Katrina?
No way. Really?
Katrina was only a Category 2. So here's the thing about Katrina is that Katrina. So the best description of New Orleans is that it's really kind of like it's like a toilet bowl. You know, in the sense that in the center of New Orleans is Lake Pontchartrain, and so the lake fills up like a toilet bowl, right? And then you've got the levees all around it to hold it in, and then you've got the pumps, and the pumps drain it. You know, so like they flush it, right? And anytime it fills up, then they hit it, and that gets the reset button. So with Katrina came in as like a Category 2, I think, when it made landfall, and it just kind of sat there and filled up like Pontchartrain. Well, so if think of it like this, like Katrina basically loaded the bases, but it was Hurricane Rita which came in behind it that was the cleanup hitter, and Hurricane Rita hit it, and that's when you had the catastrophic failure of the pumps. The pumps didn't they failed, and so they didn't drain. And then when the pumps didn't drain, the levees broke. And these are levees that were like, I mean, the Army Corps of Engineers said like you got to replace these. Like the levees were outdated, but nobody had made the investment in infrastructure, and so they failed. That's when the levees failed. See, New Orleans is like, if you go to like everybody, when you think of New Orleans, you think of like what, Bourbon Street, right?
Yeah, Mardi Gras.
Right. Mardi Gras, and so Bourbon Street's in Jackson Circle, that's up on a hill, because back in like the 1600s, like they built it up there because they didn't want to get flooded by the Mississippi River, Well, since then, they've kind of directed the flow of the Mississippi River, and so it doesn't wander around like it used to, and so everything's a lot more controlled. And so what you have now is a lot of people who've built houses in the flooding zones, and so that's where you have like the Ninth Ward and some of like the more poorer neighborhoods that they've built in that area, But it's been okay because they have the levees and they have like the pumps.
Yeah, they made the levees higher.
Yeah,
I think they're like 30 feet high now.
Yeah.
Speaking of this hurricane, it was so powerful that the flow of the Mississippi River changed.
Yeah, went backwards. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. That's crazy.
But thank God Aaron's okay, and I guess New York City's still a mess tonight on it. Couple more.
Did you see the pictures of the subways?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Flooding?
Yeah.
So somebody posted on there that like 2 years ago, the MTA, which is like the transportation group that controls the subways and the buses, they had funding, and the group came to them and said, you need to invest in redoing the work so it doesn't flood in the case we ever get, with climate change it's getting worse, and you need to do this. And they're like, you know what, we're going to go ahead, and they spend the money on police officers. So they hired an additional 500 police officers. And, look at it now, man. So they hired all these cops because they wanted to stop people who are jumping over the turnstiles, the jumpers.
Yeah.
But, look at it now, dude. They got that's freaking an avalanche of water coming down there, and they don't have, the infrastructure to, divert it. So.
All right, so let's touch on a couple more things, and we'll wrap this up. The Texas abortion bill, where basically it makes it illegal to have an abortion after 6 weeks. But not only that, if you drive someone across state lines to get an abortion, anybody that reports that, basically anybody that reports that is deputized, and the person that assists somebody getting an abortion can get a $10,000 fine. Got my facts straight.
I just don't know what to say. I'm just so. I think the fact that so what happened was they passed this crazy ass bill, and it was appealed, of course, to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court basically ruled to not hear it by a 5-4 decision. So that's what's called shadow docketing. And so basically, when you appeal something to the Supreme Court, they have the option to grant what's called certiorari, which means that they're going to agree to hear it. If they don't grant certiorari, then it goes down to the appeals court. The appeals court for that circuit is the Fifth Circuit, and it's fucking crazy. It's made up of federal judges from Texas, Louisiana, and the most redneck, backwards, conservative areas of America is the Fifth Circuit.
Yeah.
And so they're constantly backing up like oil companies, all the bad actors they always back, and so because they refused it, it's going to go back down, and it's a done deal. The Fifth Circuit's going to affirm it, and so it's game over, man. I mean, so what that means is that everything that happens in the state of Texas is legal, so they can do that in the state of Texas.
But at the same time, everybody that's on that side says that they're constitutionalists. Now, Roe versus Wade was already decided, it's in the Constitution that the woman has the right to choose what she wants to do with her body.
No, so it's not in the Constitution. It's not an amendment. Now, that's the solution, though. But in order to get it passed whenever if they added it to the Constitution, and they said this is going to be like the 30th Amendment, that a woman's right to choose what happens to her body, what would happen is that you could put that on there, but then it has to be ratified by a majority of the states. And so the states would have to ratify it. I think you need like 3/4 of the states to ratify it in order for it to become an actual amendment. Remember when they passed the Equal Rights Amendment, which basically said that women can't be paid less than men for the same amount of the same job, stuff like that. But that was passed in like the 1960s, but it never became an actual law because it wasn't ratified by 3/4 of the states. So like states like Arkansas, Tennessee, they held it up and it never got ratified. If it doesn't get ratified, then it's never a state. See, the thing about the yeah.
I guess the question is, though, how do you overturn a Supreme Court decision, something that was already decided? It should be like...
With another Supreme Court decision? So there's two ways. One is that you have to... The Supreme Court is supposed to abide by this thing called stare decisis, which means that let the precedent rule. It's like this Latin phrase, and so... That's the way it was, is that basically back in the day, that whatever the former opinion was, is that they basically filed suit. So that way, so they didn't have fucking chaos. Now, that's changed. When Trump appointed these new guys, when they appointed Kavanaugh, when he appointed fucking Amy Coney Barrett, all of a sudden, the way of doing things changed. And with Roe Wade, it's been chipped at. Like, they've been chipping away at it. Pennsylvania versus Casey was another one where they kind of chipped away at it, And so now they finally went in, and they just did they came out and they stuck it in, but they didn't want to have it where they were on the record where they accepted it, and had it made a big hurrah out of it. Instead, they just basically decided not to hear it. Which means that it goes back down to the states, it goes to the circuit, and the circuit's going to form it. So that means everything in that state of Texas is legal.
Which every red state will follow suit.
Every red state's going to follow suit, and they're going to do their own thing. So the question is so what do we do about it, right? So this whole thing, it's all built on this theory called the personal attorney general, or a private attorney general, which means that anyone could act in the best interest of the state. If they're breaking a law, and you can bring a suit against somebody. That's like the power that they have. Well, there's these things called anti-SLAPP laws, and an anti-SLAPP law means that if you're expressing yourself in what would be a constitutional amendment, like your constitutional right, then you cannot be sued for doing that. the really insidious part about this Texas law is that anyone could bring a suit against anyone they feel is violating the law.
Right. Even if you're from out of state. If you're from Arizona and you think you know somebody in Texas that brought somebody across the border, you can file suit against that person, sue them for $10,000.
So what if it's a bullshit suit, though, right?
Well,
what if it's a bullshit suit?
It's going to tie up the courts.
But here's, like, follow me on this. Like, if I bring a suit against you and it's complete bullshit, typically the remedy is that I can sue you for any court costs that I've incurred defending it. The Texas law says that defendants cannot be reimbursed for legal fees. So it's completely designed for any type of abortion clinic or anything like that, any women's health clinic, and let's be honest, there's nothing. Abortion is a women's health, and so we should be able to talk about it without having to fucking use code words. But so it's completely designed to bankrupt these places. You know what I mean?
Are we still allowed? Is it still on the board to just allow Texas to secede? I mean, is it on the board? I mean, who the fuck would want to live there with all these crazy ass laws there?
Right. So that's where the anti-SLAPP laws come in, because the anti-SLAPP laws say that, well, this is my First Amendment right, and it allows you to dismiss the case. On top of that, you're allowed to incur defense fees. Now, and so Texas does have an anti-SLAPP law on the book, Now, here's the crazy thing. This is where it gets really weird. It's just like, I think the law of the universe is for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So the writing of the language of this law could also be applied to people who refuse to get the vaccine. Like, you could literally apply the same language of this law, and you could empower yourself to sue somebody that refuses to get the vaccine because they're putting your life at risk. And it's a law of unintended consequences. Like, literally, Texas is opening themselves up. And it's going to be fucking chaos, because that literally you're going to have people being able to sue everyone, and honestly, it's going to clog the courts, and it's going to be pandemonium. But, again, it's the law of unintended consequences. And the thing that really drives this home, that, again, it's like the dog that finally caught the car, is that you haven't heard Ted fucking Cruz say anything about it. I mean, this is the guy who laughed at California because they were getting hit by wildfires. You know what I mean? Like, he's an asshole. He doesn't give a shit about it. But he hasn't said a fucking word about it. And you wonder why.
Why wouldn't he say? I thought he was for ending abortion.
And here's the whole thing.
Like,
is these people, they don't give a fuck about these unborn babies. They don't.
No, it's about controlling women. That's what it's about. It's like these... And then the women who go along with it, the women who are on that side, are the ones like the Amy Coney Barretts who want to give all the power to the men anyways. They want the men to... They want to be handmaids. But it's like, if men really want to help out with the abortion issue, gentlemen, I have a way that you can help. Get a fucking vasectomy. Get vasectomies. Then that prevents abortion.
How about this too? Now, Pete, maybe you know this. So, say that the woman can't get an abortion, and this new law that you can sue somebody for $10,000. Can the woman sue the man who got her pregnant for $10,000?
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've had this argument with somebody before. I go, whoa. Then do women have to start from now on saying, you know what? I want to have sex with you, but I don't want you depositing into my bank. If you understand, if you know what I'm saying. It's like, it's almost like some of these people, these evangees, they really think that babies do come from, or miracles from God. Like, they have no idea how the human bodies work. Like, women don't just fucking get pregnant on their own.
No, you're right. No, and on top of that is this law doesn't make an exception for rape. It doesn't make an exception for incest. And I mean, like, so you're telling me that if a woman gets raped and she goes and what about the fact that 30% of all natural pregnancies end in miscarriage?
Right.
Our own women's bodies naturally, the majority of women don't even know they're pregnant, because and so they, you don't even know, or they have a miscarriage and they're like, oh, I think my period's running late, I mean, they don't even know. I mean, so it's a terribly written law. They wrote the law because they thought that this was going to be where, owning the libs, that you would be able to pile on all these lawsuits and against groups like Planned Parenthood and all these other family planning groups, and you'd be able to pile on lawsuits, and then liberals would pour money into defending them, except for the fact that they couldn't recuperate any of their defense fees.
Yep.
So we would just continue to pile on money, while every Yahoo in the state of Texas could file these frivolous lawsuits, right? And then eventually that everyone would it would be basically a big sucking sound to drain liberals of their money, and it'd basically be like a turkey shoot. But again, this is going to create absolute pandemonium. For instance, right now, there's a call line that started in Texas where you can start reporting people. You can call into the state of Texas to report them, and so the TikTokers have started filling in the line with Donkey Kong cartoons and stuff, and a bunch of other. Yeah, they're pranking it, and it's like the equivalent of buying 10,000 Trump tickets to a rally, never showing up. I mean, so they're doing this right now. I mean, it's going to be absolutely wild, man. I mean, they're trying to basically break the to clog up everything that they use for reporting and stuff like that, and I mean, it's a horrible use of the courts. It's a horrible use of of human beings. You're basically
and
turning everybody into a professional snitch.
To read the point is they don't really care about those babies because they won't fund adoption centers. They don't give a shit.
Welfare, food stamps,
all that.
Texas has more children living in poverty than literally any other state in the union. 1 out of every 5 children in Texas is in poverty. When their power grid failed, there were literally children that froze to death. I mean, Texas couldn't give a shit.
Yeah,
I know.
And mask mandates in schools, they're not for that.
Yeah.
So they're not really for protecting kids.
Oh.
Wrap this up. Infrastructure. How's your bridge doing?
So the bridge has been repaired for now. I mean, but it's really just a question of when it's going to break. So just if people don't remember, the bridge in Memphis broke. It cracked. This is the new bridge that was built in the 70s. The funny thing is that the old bridge that was built in 1947 by the Iron Workers Union, which is fucking, it's not pretty, but it's stout as shit. Was the one that is standing still. The one that's really fancy and decorative, and really pretty lit up, and it lights up at night. That's the one that broke, and that one was built in the 70s. So they got on there, they welded it back in place, they put in huge plates to basically hold it up and repair it. But the structural engineers have said that this is only a temporary fix, that it's just going to be, again, a matter of time before it breaks again. So we're going to end up needing a new bridge. But yeah. But I would like to point out, so the Biden infrastructure bill passed. It passed the House and the Senate. Okay, it's going to be $1 trillion of budget, and it's going to go in to prepare all these things and stuff like that. And so through reconciliation, the Democrats in the House have passed a $3 trillion bill. Okay, and we're talking about electric charging stations. One of the things we talked about was the environment, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. get on board with like electric cars. You know, what do we need? We need charging stations. So money for that. It's going to revamp the Amtrak and the rail stations. So we're going to have faster trains. Like, you know.
But didn't our wonderful Kirsten Sinema say that she wasn't going to support that bill?
She hasn't said anything yet about the reconciliation bill. She said that she was against it, but I think she's going to have to hear more about it. You know, but I think they can get it passed. You know, I think eventually she'll come around. But
hopefully.
And so it's got millions and millions of dollars for roads. And here's the thing: I don't know if I talked about this before, but they did a look. Like, so let me ask you this: like, what state has the most roads? Would you guess?
I would say it'd either be Texas or California.
I'd say California.
So the number one state with the most roads is Kansas.
What?
What?
Yeah.
Wait,
Kansas.
what?
So Kansas.
Where are you going to?
So Kansas has all the feedlots, and they also have also a huge shipping hub. And so they have, like, if you ever go to like to Kansas or Nebraska, like they've got like 7-lane highways, and they're like filled with trucks. You know. So they're a huge railway station where all the rails are up there, and that's where everybody picks up loads, and they truck out of Kansas, right? The number 2 is Texas. So, and then I think like number 3 is like fucking North Dakota or something like that, or Michigan, you know? But, so the point is like, the states that really benefit the most from infrastructure are conservative states, you know, because they need roads, they need bridges. The bridge that broke in Memphis was like, there's only 4 bridges that actually crossed the Mississippi River, and that was one of them, you know? So, like, there were huge backlogs, like, trucking had to reroute, like, through, like, Mississippi and Arkansas and all this other crazy shit. But that's why, like, Mitch McConnell and all those guys got on board with passing the infrastructure bill for $1 trillion, is because their fucking states need it. Like, they need to have that money because they can't operate with. So, the new infrastructure bill for $3 trillion, like the state of Mississippi, it breaks down to per person. Each Mississippian would get $1,500, and Tennessee would be $1,200 per person. It was what would be invested. Like the state of freaking Wyoming and Montana is going to be like an outrageous amount of money per person.
$3,500 per person or something.
Yeah, because they're going to get that money, and there's not a whole lot of people that freaking live there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these guys are really kind of putting up these fronts about how they really don't want to support this bill, but they fucking do. They really do. They want the infrastructure. You know, they want the money. And so, and here's a crazy thing, and I'm just going to shut up after this, I promise. But, so we talked about this as like the 5th year anniversary of my company, right? You know, Bootsy's Barbecue. And so, I mean, we formed this company because we really wanted to, I was sick of people being at each other's throats, and we wanted to come up with a way for people to get together and like kind of like a kumbaya moment, you know, in my little squishy liberal world, you know, and like let's just get together and listen to some fucking good music and hang out at the park. Barbecue and listen, yeah, man, have a good time. But the thing that really made it possible was an investment in infrastructure. The state of Arkansas and this gaming group that was there that had like a dog track and like, you know, slot machines and card tables, they both put up like $2 million to form this commercial kitchen where anybody could use it and could use state-of-the-art equipment and produce stuff. And like that literally made it possible for me with only $900 to launch a company that's now in 4 different states, you know? I mean, if it wasn't, and the reason is because I could go in there, rent a place for a low hourly rate and mass produce stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's so many people that are so passionate about their ideas and they work their asses off, but they can't grow. And what really pisses me off is that we talk a lot about how like great capitalism is and how we're a capitalistic country. Well, you know, the cornerstone of capitalism is competition, and you can't have competition when you have a small group at the top that controls access to everything. You know, and so one of the things that's going to really level the playing field is if we invest in infrastructure, if we get broadband, so some kid that can start building websites, because that lives out in the sticks in Kingman, broadband access, so everybody has access to the internet, so they can all get on this global highway and take part in stuff and share ideas and build things. A new energy grid so that we can bring manufacturing back from overseas. It really needs to happen, and I hopefully, people will talk to their local congressmen and senators and, really let them know that, this has to be done,
Yeah.
Well, Pete, God, that was very informative.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend researching stuff?
I know.
I listen to this podcast in the car. It's called Reality Redemption.
Yeah, right.
And he's funny too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. We kind of really bagged on the right, and we were trying.
really.
We were trying to get away from that, but I compared him to
We
the
didn't
Taliban.
really. We kind of but we discussed it, and in fairness to you doing that comparison, what does the guy do when you ask him the question? He acts like a jackass and insults you with name calling rather than trying to explain it.
Right.
So
It's funny. You guys literally had a guy with "fuck your feelings" written on his car. He had a "fuck your feelings" rap. And now that guy is posting a fake picture of dogs that supposedly got left in Afghanistan, which is completely false, and crying about it. What happened, dude? 6 months ago, he was telling people to go fuck your feelings. How quickly things change.
I don't know. You would think in the global crisis, like after 9/11, which led us to Afghanistan, though we all came together for a short time. You think we would have come together over COVID, but no. This is going to drag out to 2 years, at least. Actually, I think it's going to be an endemic, not a pandemic. Just something we're going to have to deal with the rest of our lives.
yeah, I think eventually we'll probably all get COVID, but we'll probably be okay because we have the vaccine.
Hey, I'm just counting the days till the third shot.
I know. Yeah, I'm ready to get my third.
Have you seen the statistics, though? It's killing the shit out of Republicans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hey, they've known the same news that we've known all this time. They've chosen to be fake news. I don't know, what else can you say at this point? It's a losing argument. All right, I'm done.
Here's the thing, though, is even though I've been vaccinated and I'm going to these concerts, I can still catch it and pass it on, but my roommate is a staunch Republican who's not going to get it. And I have to live with that kind of fear of, oh shit, I don't want me to get him sick and have something happen to him.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be your fault, though.
I've come back to masking up again.
Well, remember that scene in The Watchmen when Rorschach gets thrown in jail, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, we're gonna kill you in here," and he's like, "No, what you don't understand is I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me." Remember that? Do you have to mask up? Do if you want 50% of the rent.
Well, I guess on that cheery note, we'll wrap this one up.
Right?
Just wake me up when September ends. But then it's going to get worse. Are you going to try out for the
Of course.
Ghost Walk this year?
I'm gonna go reprise my same role, or try to. I guess they could replace me.
I got a friend invite from Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid.
Yeah, Billy the Kid Chastain. I sent you.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, Frank. Yeah, and I can't remember the other guy's name. That's true. Did you accept him as your friend? Oh.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Pete,
Yeah.
Pete, we'll keep going. I'm going to shut off the microphone, though. We can keep chatting for a few minutes. But again, the Pineapple Express is out now at BBQ.com.
And tell them where all else they can get it. Amazon?
Yeah, no.
So the Pineapple Express is only exclusively on the website for right now.
Oh,
and
okay.
It officially drops tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah, you guys got the pre-order in. You know, you guys got it was in the pipeline for you guys. So yours will arrive tomorrow.
Yeah. So we'll
on the day that
we'll probably try something on Monday, and we'll hop on and we'll do a quick podcast and give it a review.
Yeah. We'll do a pineapple podcast.
That'd be great, man. I really hope you guys like it. Definitely get some sausages.
That's what I want to get.
All right, buddy. This was difficult, but it's life. All right,
Yeah.
so I guess we'll talk to you next week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.